Hello everyone, welcome back to ImpactEd. Normally we step through part of the situational analysis. Today we're actually going to give you a tool, and it's an oldie but a goodie. It's great when it works and it's easy to get it wrong, and it's our old favourite, focus groups. Tell us all about focus groups, Steve Harris.
Thanks, James. Look, I don't know how many focus groups we have under our belts between the two of us, but
We're both very old,
Yes.
so lots.
It's been really interesting sitting down and refining this together. I'm quite confident if I stuck to the tool now, then I would get a much better outcome. So without any further ado, let's jump into it.
And a good observation at this moment in time, Steve, and I'm not pumping up your tyres, but you have levelled up in PowerPoint skills to advance God. So
There's nothing like a good infographic to guide us, but we've got 7 elements that we've highlighted, and we've got the book resource that's sitting on the web for everybody to grab, but we'll take you through the 7 pieces. If you print out the book and have a look at the same time, it'll help make a lot more sense. The very first one is the purpose statement. We document what the purpose of conducting the focus group is, and secondly, how the information will be used. And if we can't do that in a really succinct and clear manner, then we shouldn't be running the focus group. And I know that I've run focus groups, and when they haven't been successful, they've been waffle-a-thons. And looking back, it was because I didn't get this bit right.
And if you're bringing people in and they're giving up their time and their goodwill to be there, you want to be clear about what you hope to gain from them. So
Also, it overcomes any mistrust right at the beginning if you can be quite clear in why you're doing it and what you'll do with it. The second consideration is the group that we're going to run. So key questions: how many people per group, how many groups, and how will you select the participants? Most of the research talks about running groups of 5 to 10. We believe that 6 to 8 is probably the ideal number. If they're too small, you don't get the variety of thinking, and if they're too big, either not everybody is heard, or you end up with just a general consensus. In terms of how many groups, that depends on the size of your school and the number of people that you can get, and you might run multiple groups on the same focus group, or equally, you might have, let's say, 5 focus groups, but 5 different tables running with 5 different purposes and rotate them through. In terms of selecting the participants, I know one of the mistakes I made early on was trying to have a diverse representation. All the evidence says if you get similar types of people and similar stakeholders and allow them to share a diverse view, you'll get better results. Otherwise, people end up defending from their position. That then takes us over to the roles within the focus group. Now, we identified 3 key roles. The first is that of moderator, and that role is to introduce the purpose, to establish the focus group protocols, guide the discussion, probe as required, and to control the meeting. We then have the note taker or the recorder. Now, the very first thing is to record those people who are present, summarise the key statements as they hear them. I like the idea of recording notable quotes. There are some times that a quote will capture the essence of the discussion, and that's probably the only time that I think the recorder should jump in and say, I'm just going to grab this as a quote. Is this what you're trying to say? Even better if they don't need to interrupt. As much as possible, they should remain entirely outside the discussion, with the exception, James, of if we're getting off track, they need to be there to assist the moderator.
And it goes without question that all roles go into this process with an absolute perceived objectivity.
Yes.
The people in the group must think that they are recapturing everything. They don't have their own barrow. Which
brings us to the fourth element, which is the questions. And I absolutely believe that this is a make or break. Questions should be a series of open-ended questions. Last thing we want is a closed question that will only elicit a yes or a no. They should start general, gain in complexity, and be more specific as we go along. Need to have probes ready to go, so that when we get a response, and it might be a limited response, a good moderator has these tools ready. So give me an example. Can you describe how that felt? What would good look like?
Where should we go from here?
Yep. What else could we have done? And finally, a really solid closing question. There's nothing flatter, I believe, if you attend a focus group, if it just peters out at the end or waffles off down somewhere strange and uncomfortable. Bring it back to your purpose. So when we started, we said our purpose was to. Have we addressed that? And go round. Has everybody been heard? Is there anything else anybody else feels they need to add? You close it out well, you make satisfied customers, and they're more likely to come back to your next focus group. So now we get into the exciting part, the action. We get to run our focus groups. So we start off with welcome and introduction. We introduce the protocols. Now we've got some suggested protocols in the support document. Basically, use those as a starting point, but you should contextualize them. Have your questions and probes ready to go. Check in throughout to ensure everybody's heard. And if somebody's a bit quiet, cut to them. James, we haven't heard from you for a while. What do you think of this? Bring them in, make them part. This is, I think, the hardest part for everyone. Do not defend, explain, or justify.
The minute you do that, you'll blow the process out of the water as not being objective.
People are closed down, and we want people's opinions, even if they're wrong. And at times, you'll have somebody sitting there and telling what you believe is absolute lies, and you've got to smile and say, thank you very much. We really appreciate you sharing. And that's that last comment. We value all comments. Doesn't matter if we agree with them, but the moment we say, but because, we've lost it. Okay. Having run our highly successful focus group, we move into the post phase. Immediately following the forum, and when I say immediately, as soon as it's practical, be nice, say goodbye to everyone, but then the moderator and recorder must highlight the key messages, the themes and implications. If you don't get that, I believe within 30 minutes, you lose it. And the further away you go, the less reliable your findings will be.
And that's when we're dealing with qualitative data.
You're an innovator, James.
An innovator. When you're dealing with qualitative data, it only exists in the moment. It's not like a number on a page we can go back to and reference. So capture it while it's fresh. Yep, agree with that one.
And there's nothing wrong with writing a statement around the feel of the meeting was, because when we move into our next stage, which is synthesis, there'll be times when we run multiple focus groups. And when that's the case, we need to get the findings from each individual focus group. We need to share them and synthesize them into a final summative report. Now, I believe that should be done within 48 hours. If you're fortunate, it'll be the same facilitator and same moderator and note taker running each session. However, you might have multiple, and you can certainly have findings that are absolutely opposed, that one group of stakeholders feels this way and one group's over here, and that should be your findings, that there is a diversity. And that takes us to the end of our process, James.
Yes, so in weeks ahead, we will be going back into wellbeing, as we've foreshadowed before. We are hotly awaiting the numeracy tool, which will fill the same space as the reading tool. People are working very hard on that. People much smarter, I've said it before, much smarter than you, Steve, are working on that. And look, I can't wait for that one. I'm very excited about the possibilities that'll bring us. Yeah.
That brings us to the end of our how-to for today. James, you've alluded to the numeracy tool that's coming.
Yep, very exciting.
Nothing left but to say goodbye.
Yeah. Hasta la vista, baby.